Imagine if you didn't let anything outside of you, determine your sense of self-worth. I used to believe that people are supposed to tie their self-worth to external things. I didn't really see it as any other way. I thought that you're just supposed to base your sense of self-worth off of other people's opinions, off of whatever it is that you accumulate, off of whatever it is that you create. Until, as I've been on this epic journey, I've realized a lot of fucking things. And that is that your emotional state doesn't have to be a fucking roller coaster that is unfortunately consistently unstable and very much so based off of a bunch of fucking disruptive moving parts out there. Your identity, your sense of self, and your sense of self-worth does not have to be defined by external factors that are always fucking changing. If you feel like you can only be worthy in a relationship, and then you get that relationship, and then you're worthy, and then all of a sudden you lose that relationship, and then your worth is somehow non-existent. So then therefore with that, you only seek relationships to feel worthy, rather than recognizing a much more healthier perspective and perception in regards to relationships, a dynamic, a connection between self and other, between I and thou. It's actually strange now to look at relationships and see them as anything other than that dynamic of self and other, I, thou, intimacy, actual healthy intimacy. When you learn that your sense of self-worth is tied to other people, tied to other things out there, the accumulation of things, the accumulation of relationships, I mean, when you lose that, then you just don't feel worthy anymore. So isn't it wild that people actually chase that stuff because they believe that in order to feel worthy, they need to have those things in their life? Now, let me make it very clear that it's not right or wrong or good or bad to approach life from the standpoint of what I'm talking about here, which is extrinsic self-worth. It's just that it's not healthy. And there's a clear difference between extrinsic self-worth and intrinsic self-worth. You can live the first way if you want to. It's entirely up to you. And from what I've learned, like a majority of the fucking world lives that way. Or you could take all your power back. You could take a very good look at childhood trauma. You could take a closer look at yourself and understand how you were developed. And you can recognize, well, wait a second, my emotional state does not have to be dependent on other people. It doesn't have to be dependent on how other people see me, or what other people think about me, or what other people feel about me. My emotional state can be determined by how I choose to determine it. And it doesn't matter if the rest of the fucking herd is experiencing an emotional shit show. It doesn't. Because I don't have to be sucked into that dynamic. I can determine myself. I can choose to be happy if I want to be happy. My worth is entirely dependent on me. And now the fascinating thing is that if you are to like reflect, say for instance you're somebody who is, externally tied to things for your sense of self-worth. If you were to like actually like look at it and you get like a bird's eye view of your life, like you actually look at yourself from afar, you get a bird's eye view and everything, you start to see things from a different perspective, and you start to recognize, oh, wait a second, I have actually tied my self-worth to the external. Oh, wow, and look at that. That's kind of strange, and it's also quite unhealthy that I would get something and I'd feel worthy, and I'd lose something and I'd feel terrible. Get something worthy. Yeah, worthy. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, crap, where did it go? Fuck, shit, I'm not worthy anymore. Wow, I'll pass on that one. But living a life where you determine yourself, where you go unchanged, it doesn't matter what's happening in your environment. It doesn't matter what's happening in the lives of the people around you. And let me make it very clear. that, like, if you have people in your life that are exceedingly emotionally dependent on you, and they're adults, not healthy at all. And just so I make this clear as well, because it's very important to understand this, the way that I approach things is very much based on emotional health. There are very different experiences between those that are emotionally unhealthy, those that are emotionally stagnated, emotionally immature, usually somewhere between infancy and toddler and, childhood, and those that are actually emotionally healthy, that either had healthy a healthy childhood, or they actually did the work on themselves after childhood to get healthier. People that are emotionally healthy do not tie their worth to the external. They love relationships, but they utilize them in a way that is healthy. They don't look for other to determine their worth. You see what's going on here? If I looked to you to determine my worth, for starters, one, that's just fucking unhealthy. No shame, no guilt, nothing. I'm trying to paint this as clearly as I possibly can. Not only that, it's actually not your responsibility to give me worth, to define my worth. So let's actually take it a step further and look at that as what I believe it is, what I've learned it is, a boundary violation. It's actually a lot of responsibility for somebody else to determine my worth. It's a lot of responsibility for somebody else to determine your worth. And if you could actually instead just take that power back on yourself and develop consciously like that, like just recognizing nobody else needs to give you worth. And when you actually open your eyes and like recognize the entire dynamic and be like, oh, well, wait a second, I do determine myself, I do determine my worth is not tied to anybody else, your entire life literally transforms. Because the other thing that I want to say before I end off this video, people with extrinsic self-worth that tie their sense of self-worth to the external, right? Saying, for instance, that person, I'm in a relationship with that person because it makes me feel worthy. Not good or bad, right or wrong, no shame, no guilt, but it is unhealthy. Now, interestingly enough, if you were to look at this for what it is and actually recognize that this is a whole energy dynamic, like people's lives literally transform when they stop sitting in external self-worth, in extrinsic self-worth. And the reason is because if you only feel worthy because of things out there, including people that you could have or that you do have, you actually create a lot of resistance in your life. And that energy is very much repellent. You're resisting things. When you let go and when you realize, oh, wait a second, I determine myself. Oh, wait a second, I determine my self-worth. And I am worthy regardless of who comes or goes into my life. I am worthy regardless of whatever it is that I have. One of the most important things to understand in terms of, what's usually called law of attraction is that the most attractive people out there, when I say attractive, I'm not referring to physically, I'm referring to energetically, emotionally. The most attractive people out there do not tie their self-worth to the external because they see themselves as worthy regardless of whatever the fuck is going on in their lives. This transforms your entire energy dynamic. It makes you attractive, but in the way that it's just like, either way, you're good. Either way, I'm good. My worth is not dependent on how you see me. My worth is not dependent on how you feel about me. My worth is not dependent on if you are mad at me or not. My worth is not dependent on any of that stuff. I am worthy regardless. And with that, also to recognize that I don't do things to consciously. The average person, I don't know how to approach their personality structure, but just take somebody that does not consciously intend to hurt people. Wonderful. If you do hurt somebody and it's by accident, okay, you're not a bad person, you're not a bad object, it's not good or bad or right or wrong, Recognizing that you hurt them and trying to do better is wonderful. You're still worthy. It doesn't change. None of that stuff changes. The most important thing to recognize here is that people with extrinsic self-worth, externalized self-worth, they have projected all of that stuff outwards. So the solution to this is to bring all of it back to you, onto yourself. To recognize yourself as worthy, to not tie your worth to things that you don't need to, because you just simply don't need to. There's nothing that you can add to you that will make you more worthy. There's nothing that, it's a very simple concept, and it completely transforms your energy. There's nothing that you can let go of that will make you any less worthy. Like people, for instance, maybe they're having a very hard time financially, and maybe they have to let go of or sell things, and they feel like if they don't have this thing, then they're going to be less worthy. That's just not the way that it works. You're worthy regardless. And when you realize that that is entirely dependent on you and you alone, like, just swim in the fucking universe of power that you have. And it's a healthy power. It's not a power that is like toxic and it creates unhealth in other people's lives. It's not about that. It's a power that you probably didn't learn as a child, or you gave away to other people because you were taught to as a child. Bringing all of that back onto yourself, validating yourself, approving of yourself, determining yourself, recognizing that you're worthy regardless of any of these things, your entire energy dynamic just completely transforms. And when you sit in that universe of self-worth that is determined intrinsically by you, you'll see a lot of things change in your life.